The stench hit first. Rot, blood, human decay. When the Ottoman army advanced into Wallachia in 1462, they expected resistance, walls, archers, defiance. What they found instead was silence and death. Before them stretched a plain of corpses. 20,000 men, women, and children, all impaled on sharpened stakes. A forest of bodies, swaying slightly in the wind, some blackened by the sun, some still twitching. At the center towered a gilded spike, and on it hung Hamza Pasha, an Ottoman commander impaled in full armor, his face frozen in horror. Even Sultan Mehmed II, conqueror of Constantinople, turned pale. He whispered, "I cannot take the land of a man who can do such things." Then he ordered the retreat. This was not legend. This was the work of one man, Vlad III Dracula, Prince of Wallachia. A man who ruled through fear so absolute that even the invincible fled. A man whose cruelty would echo through history. This is the story of Vlad the Impaler, not the vampire of fiction, but the human monster who inspired it. Born in Blood Winter, 1431, Transylvania, a small house beneath a banner marked with a dragon. Inside, a noblewoman screamed as her son entered the world. The child's father, Vlad II Dracul, was a knight of the Order of the Dragon, a Christian brotherhood sworn to defend Europe from the advancing Ottomans. The word Dracul means dragon, and his son would be Dracula, the son of the dragon. But the boy's destiny would have nothing to do with chivalry or faith. His Europe was not one of knights and valor, but of betrayal, shifting borders, and blood. Wallachia lay between two empires, Hungary and the Ottomans, trapped in an endless struggle. It was a land where loyalty changed with the wind, where a single knight could decide a kingdom's fate, and where mercy was a weakness that could not survive. A child in chains. In 1442, when Vlad was 11, his father was summoned to the Ottoman court. The meeting was a deception. Vlad and his younger brother, Radu, were seized as hostages. Their father could either abandon them or die. He chose the crown. He rode home alone, leaving his sons to the mercy of the Turks. In the Ottoman palace, Radu thrived. Gentle, handsome, eager to please, he became the Sultan's favorite. But Vlad resisted. He insulted his teachers, defied the Quran, and fought his fellow hostages. The Turks taught obedience through pain. They used the falaka, beating the soles of the feet until the skin split. They hung bodies upside down until blood flooded the head. They starved defiant captives in darkness. And they made Vlad watch executions, impalements. The condemned slid slowly down dull wooden stakes, writhing for hours, sometimes days, before death. The young prince studied every detail, the angle, the pressure, the sound of breaking ribs. He was not horrified. He was learning. Every cry became a lesson, every corpse, a teacher. The betrayal years passed. Vlad grew hard, bitter, silent. Then news reached him that broke what little of his childhood remained. His father, Vlad Dracul, had been overthrown and murdered by Wallachian nobles, his throat cut and his body discarded. Vlad's eldest brother, Mircea, was captured, blinded with hot irons, and buried alive. The boy did not weep. He only asked, how long did it take him to die? The Ottomans thought they'd broken him. They had made something far worse. The return in 1448, they released Vlad, now 17, believing he could serve as their puppet ruler in Wallachia. He returned home, haunted and hollow. But his reign lasted only 2 months before he was driven out by rival factions. He vanished into exile, drifting through Europe as a mercenary and fugitive. He fought under Hungarian regent John Hunyadi, the same man who had plotted his father's death. He learned how to command men, how to wage war, and how to make fear a weapon stronger than swords. By 1456, he was ready. He invaded Wallachia with Hungarian support. The pretender prince fell in battle, his head cut from his shoulders. The boy who once watched impalements now began performing them. The Banquet of Blood Easter, 1457. Vlad invited the Wallachian nobles, the same boyars who had betrayed his father, to a feast in his capital, Târgoviște. The tables groaned under roasted meats. The wine flowed freely, the hall filled with laughter. Then Vlad rose and asked a simple question. "How many rulers have you served?" Some answered 5. Some said 20. Each number was proof of treachery. Vlad raised his goblet. He smiled. Then he gave a signal. Soldiers stormed in. The elderly were dragged outside and impaled on stakes, while the younger nobles were chained and marched north. They were forced to rebuild a fortress stone by stone, until exhaustion claimed them. Those who fell were impaled beside their unfinished work. By the time the castle was complete, none of the nobles were alive to see it. Vlad called it justice. The world would call it madness. The law of fear. In Vlad's Wallachia, fear replaced law. He decreed that theft would be punished by impalement, and soon, theft ceased to exist. A golden cup was placed by a public fountain in his capital. No one dared touch it. He held executions daily. A merchant who cheated a customer was impaled. A wife who failed to mend her husband's shirt was impaled. Even envoys who refused to remove their turbans were nailed to their skulls. He turned death into performance. He dined among the dying, drinking wine as screams filled the air. Some accounts claim he dipped bread into their blood. Whether true or not, it captures the essence of the man, one who found nourishment in fear. To Vlad, terror wasn't cruelty, it was control. And it worked. The Blood Feast of Brasov, 1459. The Saxon merchants of Brasov defied him, backing rival princes. Vlad marched to the city with 20,000 troops. He burned the Black Church to the ground. The city became a graveyard. The inhabitants, men, women, and children, were impaled in precise rows. Mothers and infants skewered together. Pregnant women pierced through the belly. In the center of this atrocity, Vlad ate dinner. When one of his men gagged at the stench, Vlad smiled. "Does the smell offend you?" When the man said yes, Vlad ordered him impaled on the tallest stake. "From there," he said, "the odor will not reach you." It was not just vengeance, it was theater, a stage built from corpses. If this descent into real history unsettles you, there are darker corners still ahead. Subscribe and stay with us, because what follows makes the myth of Dracula look merciful. The night attack by 1462, Vlad's defiance provoked the Sultan himself. Mehmed II had marched north with an army perhaps 10 times the size of Vlad's. Vlad could not win through strength. He chose fear. He burned villages, poisoned wells, and left fields barren. He even sent diseased captives into Ottoman camps, spreading plague among the soldiers. Then, on June the 17th, he struck. Under moonlight, he led a cavalry raid into the Ottoman camp, aiming to assassinate the Sultan in his tent. The attack was chaos and fire. Vlad's men cut through guards, reached the command pavilion, and killed the wrong man. The Grand Vizier, not the Sultan, fell beneath his sword. By dawn, 10,000 were dead. Vlad retreated to his capital. When Mehmed advanced, he found the gates open and the forest of the impaled waiting for him. For the first time, the invincible conqueror turned back. Terror had defeated an empire. The fall, but victory poisoned itself. Vlad's people were broken by his reign. His brother, Radu the Handsome, returned at the head of an Ottoman army, promising peace. The nobles defected. Vlad fled north, seeking aid from King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary. The king had him arrested. Vlad was thrown into a dungeon. For 12 years, he rotted in darkness. The guards found rats impaled on splinters, birds skewered on quills. When asked why, Vlad answered, "To keep my skills sharp." Even imprisoned, he remained what the Ottomans had made him, a student of suffering. The third reign, in 1475, Hungary needed allies against the Ottomans again. Vlad was released. He converted to Catholicism, married a Hungarian noblewoman, and was granted soldiers to reclaim his throne. He returned to Wallachia in triumph. But time had not softened him. If anything, captivity had distilled his cruelty into something colder. He began impaling once more, slowly, methodically. Families were executed together. Children first, so their parents could watch. Corpses were arranged into shapes, letters, even spirals, messages written in human flesh. One chronicler describes a scene of pure horror. Vlad had prisoners impaled in a circular pattern, with a pregnant woman raised in the center. As she gave birth on the stake, he took notes on how long she lived. It was not rage, it was fascination. The death of a monster, winter, 1476. Vlad marched once more against Ottoman raiders. He was ambushed and killed, some say betrayed by his own men. His head was cut off, preserved in honey, and sent to Constantinople. There it was displayed on a stake above the city gate. The Impaler, finally impaled. His body was never found. Some say monks buried it secretly. Others whisper it was stolen, worshipped, or hidden. But it didn't matter. The legend was already immortal. The myth and the man. Centuries later, his name would be reborn in fiction, Bram Stoker's Dracula, a vampire who drinks blood, lives forever, and fears the cross. A monster softened by myth. But the real Dracula did not fear the cross. He wielded it while committing atrocities. He did not drink blood, he spilled it, laughing. And yet, in modern Romania, he is celebrated by some as a national hero. A defender of the Christian world against the Ottomans, statues honor him, coins bear his face, tourists buy his image on mugs and magnets. They call him Protector. They forget he slaughtered peasants and nobles alike. They forget that his cruelty knew no boundary of faith, rank, or reason. The true horror. Vlad's genius was not in strategy or warfare. It was in realizing a truth most refused to face. Fear governs better than justice. He discovered that terror unites, that cruelty ensures obedience, and that, so long as a ruler calls his violence righteous, people will follow him into hell. His empire of corpses terrified the Ottomans into retreat. His legacy taught future tyrants that terror works, that brutality buys time, that cruelty can be justified if it serves our side. Vlad the Impaler did not die with his head on that stake. He survives in every leader who rules by fear, in every society that excuses horror when it comes from its own hand. The psychology of a tyrant. Historians have long debated what drove Vlad III to such extremes. Was he insane? Or simply a man molded perfectly by his circumstances? Modern psychologists see a pattern. Childhood trauma, years of imprisonment and humiliation, witnessing torture as a boy, powerless to intervene. Then, absolute power in adulthood, a laboratory where he could reverse the roles. They call it learned sadism. The captive becomes the tormentor. The helpless becomes the god of pain. Vlad's cruelty was not mindless rage. It was controlled, systematic, almost scientific. He varied impalement angles to test how long victims survived. He recorded the results, refining his art. Those who met him were unsettled not by madness, but by calm. He spoke softly, dressed impeccably, and discussed theology and poetry, while bodies screamed outside his palace walls. This was his genius. His evil was deliberate, rational, chosen, a monster made by man, not myth. The lesson history forgot. The world learned the wrong lesson from Vlad the Impaler. They feared his cruelty, but admired his results. His terror worked. The Ottomans hesitated for years before invading again. His name alone kept armies at bay. That success rewrote the narrative. Vlad became a protector, a symbol of resistance, proof that ruthless men can be justified if they defend their homeland. But history's praise reveals a deeper sickness, our willingness to sanctify monsters when they serve our cause. The same logic that excused Vlad's atrocities has excused tyrants ever since. The forest of corpses outside Târgoviște was not only a war crime, it was a warning written in blood that fear works, that cruelty persuades, and that humanity will always find a way to forgive its own devils. So when the myth of Dracula rises from the grave, remember, it isn't the vampire that returns. It's the idea that terror can be righteous, and it never stays buried for long. The curse of Dracula. The legend says Dracula cannot die, that he rises again and again. Perhaps that legend is true, but not in the way the stories tell. Vlad the Impaler lives on, not in coffins, but in history. In every tyrant who finds pleasure in cruelty, in every nation that calls monsters heroes, he proved that evil needs no fangs, no wings, no myth, only a man with power and no mercy left in him. He was not undead, he was all too human. And that, perhaps, is the real horror. If you think this was horror, remember, Vlad was only one of many. Join us for the next forgotten atrocity buried in time. Subscribe, share, and keep the past alive, because history's worst monsters are never just legend.